You're live.
Bitcoin Liberty Live 51. Almost made it.
51. Muy bueno.
We're back, Bitcoin Liberty Live, every Saturday whenever we can get our brains collected and the coffee
Yeah.
in the veins.
Got to get enough coffee in the brain pan first.
I was, yeah, if you call it sleeping in, and rolling around, getting things going, and then playing with the daughter. I get kind of preoccupied and busy some mornings, and then it's like I'm not even caught up on news some days. We were talking offline about day-to-day fiat job, and like I'll be pretending to keep up or wanting to keep up, and it's like I can't get to it, and then by Friday after work I'm like I can kind of start
Oh,
to catch up on the week. And
yeah.
it's been a lot happening, really. I mean, Scott Bessent has been in the media steadily a lot lately, doing like a lot of circuit talk about
Oh,
what
yeah.
was he on Tucker and all the news stuff. So and I think he's like helping make sure that the message is clear when the markets don't like uncertainty. And if different people are spouting different things, or Trump's tweeting stuff about tariffs and everybody's really focused on the tariffs, Besant, I think, is sweeping in and saying, here's how we're making it make sense.
Yeah.
And
Well, I don't know
if
if
it
you
ever,
saw that there was a podcast recently that had Chamath, Larry Summers, which was an old Treasury Secretary from back in Clinton era,
hmm,
the current Treasury guy, the crypto dude, Hicks or what, David Hacks or some shit like that. I don't know.
Sachs, David
Sachs.
Sachs,
There you go. Sachs. Hacks. and
hack job.
And then they had Ezra Klein, which is that little New York Times fucking troll. I don't know. I mean, he's
Oh,
a
you wrote
smart
a book.
guy. I shouldn't call him a troll, but it was a trippy conversation because Sachs was really pushing back hard on Summers, and Summers kept like he's kind of a boomer and just sort of an annoying bureaucrat type boomer at that. And then there's Ezra Klein in there just talking about like, well, what's a successful metric for all this chaos that Trump is causing? And but I just remember watching this whole conversation because Chamath and Sachs are both very results oriented people. They go, kind of doesn't matter how you get to a thing as long as you get to it and it's coherent, right? Whereas the rest of the panel, or the other two, the sort of like Summers and Ezra Klein, especially Ezra Klein, were very much about like, well, we need to follow process and process. I mean, they're very bureaucratically oriented process followers. And I kept looking at it going like, God, you guys like there's a huge difference between trying to achieve an outcome and recognizing that it's never going to go precisely the way you think it is. And it reminds me of like all these times when people want to start businesses, or back in the day when I worked in the movie industry, they talk about writing screenplays or making movies or anything. They would sit there and talk themselves in circles about when they're going to start their business, when they're going to do this movie, when they're going to write their screenplay, when they're going to write their book, and they would focus exclusively on process, and they would never get anything done. They would just sit there just spinning their wheels for years and years and years. Some of these people decades, like quite literally decades. And then I would watch results oriented people come in and they just get shit done, right? And it's never smooth. They have an idea, they go, I think it's going to go this way. And then the first step they take outside of their bubble, they go, oh, that doesn't work that way. Oh shit, I have to adjust, I have to adapt, I have to move, I have to change something. Oh, okay, now we're going to try this step. Oh, that doesn't work that way either. Okay, adjust and adapt.
Yeah,
And
let's
then,
do some more analysis paralysis soon.
right. And so, hey, what's up, Johnny? So
You're
these
back.
just sit and they'll pontificate about all the procedures they need to come up with, but you can't account for everything. No human being can account for every possible variable that you're going to run into. And even if you could, there's always going to be Murphy's law that's going to come in and bugger something up anyway. So
Hmm.
I regardless of if there's any coherence to Trump's tariff ideas, like the point is you have to start somewhere and you have to do something, and you can't just sit on your hands and just plan your way through upsetting the entire global financial system. So I don't know, man. It's
Yeah, Ezra Klein wrote a book called Abundance. I'd heard of it, and he's been out. He's a smart guy, but it's the intellectual liberal approach to, whenever Malay comes out with a chainsaw or Doge comes out with a hatchet, it's like, no, 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 no. We need a scalpel. We need to be precise. We need to be smart. We're going to do this just right. And that's all what politicians would love to hang their head on when they don't do shit. But it
Right.
sure looks like they're looking at it, and then nothing changes. And meanwhile, the system's so broken, you're so in debt. It's like you should have had a chainsaw.
Yeah.
Um, so it's
Well,
kind of that analysis paralysis. And let's be really smart and intellectual about this, because if we just think hard enough, we're going to do it just as best as you can, or maybe the best.
right.
Um, I think in the book, a lot of it's kind of like acknowledging. Well, and I think Ezra has said this on. What does he work for, the New York Times
I think
or?
it's New York Times now. He started off as some blogger that just had stuff that appealed to a liberal audience. So he kind
He's
of,
got a podcast, and yeah, he'll have various guests on, and not just leftist guests, but he's. I don't listen to it really, but I've heard him have guests on that were like a discourse that was hashing things out.
yeah.
In any case, part of it is like acknowledging that. Um, Let me distill my my view of what is kind of being said in a nice way, is that like the Democrats are fucked. Their message does not register. They don't have a message that resonates much with anybody.
Hmm.
Um, the book is called Abundance. It's kind of like people want to live their lives and grow and not be fettered with all the bureaucracy and the rules and trying to fit. And are my social intersections fitting the right hierarchy for my status and privilege, and don't offend anybody, don't say anything wrong, don't step out of line. It's this very conformist liberal victim thing.
Right.
People don't like that. Sorry, we people are done with this whole victim thing.
Yeah.
Can we live our lives? Can we move forward? Can things be better?
Right.
It's like, so abundance. It's like if Democrats are going to register with people, like normal, average, hang out with, chat about the game people, which I struggle to relate to myself. But um, it's like Democrats need to be more Republican. They don't have like a people aren't hung up on social intersectionality or climate temperatures. It's more like, can we live our lives? So the Democrats have to find a message, which I don't think they have, that is what people want to hear, which is kind of like, could you like cut some government and leave us alone, please?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you, David Sachs pointed out, and I think there's been kind of a steady stream of this sort of stuff coming from like Elon Musk and whatnot. Because David Sachs looked at Ezra and said, okay, well, all the stuff you talk about in your book, you say you want to have happen. Do you think AOC is going to do that? Do you think Bernie Sanders is going to do that? Do you think Warren is going to do that? Do you think any of these people is even remotely on board with your ideas? No, they're not. They're absolutely fundamentally aligned against what you say you want. He said, if you really want to do it, you should come over to the Republican side. And of course, he was sort of snickering at the whole idea. But what David Sachs said at the end was very poignant. He said, the new Republican Party are basically Clinton Democrats, like 100%. And if you listen to all the old Clinton talking points and all the old Hillary talking points and the Schumer talking points from the 1990s, it's so on one hand, you could look at it and you could sort of lament and go, well, the entire country has shifted left, very obviously, from what we would have considered left leaning back in the 1990s. I think that's a positive thing, though, because the right wing party that ruled us all through the 70s, 80s, and 90s were very much the neocons, right? So now you've got the leftist lunatics, like the people that are so far left that they're just they've lost complete touch with any sort of semblance of the middle of America. They do not resonate, as you just pointed out. And now we've got this Republican thing where the neocons have just been shunted off. I don't think they're completely out of the picture because we just passed $1 trillion defense budget, obviously.
Right.
But but the thing is, their popular social influence is almost zero now. Like nobody's on board with escalating the war in Ukraine. Nobody's on board with invading countries. Nobody's on board with this in this administration, best I can tell. And so, you know, to to look at what Ezra says out one side of his mouth and then look at what he supports out the other side of his mouth, you go, those don't jive, man. I think Sachs pointed that out very poignantly. But I think it's kind of fun to watch that like the new Republican Party is the Clinton Party of 1992. It's almost hilarious, but I
Yeah.
think it's a positive for the country overall.
Yeah, what was centrism is being framed as extremism, and when you look at, I mean, there have been protests, quite big random turnouts, however you want to, interpret that around the country. But what I see is a lot of upper middle class white people, boomers, either retired or near retired, perhaps. I'm not sure that young people care. I think they're kind of like,
No.
um, I
The
mean, if you've got a stock portfolio and the stocks are down, you don't like Elon Musk, you got some angst, I guess. But I
right.
don't see a lot of young people out there really having an issue. And I think so, as the Democrats struggle to know who their base is anymore, who aren't, you know uh, uh, what, 50% of maybe upper middle white class boomers.
Right.
Um, I don't know who they are, what their message is, and so who was it? One of the Republican senators or something was like, "I'm all for AOC running and being the spokesperson leadership of the Democratic Party because our win is giving her a platform. Just speak more,
Yeah.
please, AOC. You keep talking because
Yeah.
this is great for us."
Yeah.
It feels good as the Democrats try to figure out what their TikTok messaging is, but it's a loser. So yeah, they're lost.
Well, what's kind of funny about the Democratic National Committee, I think, is that the leadership has tight reins on that group, right?
Mhm.
And they very much control messaging, and they very much control like who gets in and who gets out, and they're still playing that kind of thing. The problem is that Democratic leadership are all a bunch of like self-interested boomers, right? Like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and all these people that have been like fattening themselves up on the public till and insider information and all the shenanigans they're doing offline. So what they've effectively done is they've allowed the radical wing of the Democratic Party to drive their messaging, which has allowed them to increase I mean, they've lined their pockets like gloriously with money. And now, when they've finally run to the end of their ability to sort of run that narrative, they're looking back going like, "Oh, we need to get back to where people liked us, like during the Clinton era," right? But they can't
Mhm.
do it because they've allowed the sort of radical elements of their party to drive the new narrative. Like being a Democrat today means blue hair, some guy in a dress, and that's allowed to go into any bathroom that he wants, and yada yada yada. These things, whether or not you agree with them or not, is sort of irrelevant because there's a broad swath of the population that just goes, I'm not on board with this,
Yeah.
and so it's really hard to backtrack and go back to the time where you say we need to deport illegals, like Bill Clinton said, and we need to hold people accountable, like Hillary Clinton said, and all these talking points that are now they're deriding as fascist concepts. It's really really hard to backpedal to a middle ground if you've already pilloried all that stuff as being a Nazi and a fascist, right? So they because of the leadership being so self-interested, they've allowed themselves to paint themselves into a corner that it's nearly impossible to get out of. I think it's going to take them 20 years to get back to a sense of centrism,
Yeah.
which is where
What's a
they live.
yeah what's a message that motivates people that's not oriented around hate or fear? Ironically, the sign in the yard about this house does not believe in hate. We believe in rainbows and unicorns. But man, they're angry, and it's like there's been a political decoupling of humans from the Democratic Party. There's kind of a decoupling happening between the U.S. and China. Uh,
Maybe.
there's been a little bit of decoupling, maybe in Bitcoin and Bitcoin related assets from other movements. But I think, like Adam Back will point out things about decoupling, and what I see is like a little blip split off. Maybe it's, what is it? Is it 10% of Bitcoin from the main markets? Is this does this have legs? Is this really a shift? What I do see is a non decoupling from, say, just the M2 money supply.
Yeah.
So I think it's like where there's money, it goes into good assets. When the money's tight, it just pulls out. But I don't know.
Well, that's the thing is the stock market has been defying gravity for years, despite QT and tightening of the monetary reins and all that kind of stuff. Like the M2 dropped for a while there, and yet the stock market just kept putting in high after high after high, which I think was very frustrating for the central bank to see. But I also attribute that to their own malfeasance because, the Fed put has been a thing for 40 years, right? They just know, yeah, Fed's going to bail it out sooner or later. Fed's going to bail it out sooner or later. And I think stocks have been sort of performing on that, on the Fed put. And it's been an anti gravitational sort of flow. The thing is like Trump, if you go look at his first term, he was an incredibly inflationary president. And I think a lot of the reason why Powell left rates so low for so long, well after it was obvious that inflation was creeping in, becoming a problem, and I think was because of fear of political pressure from Trump. Like if they had said, "Hey, dude, we need to raise rates," I would bet 1,000 satoshis that conversation happened numerous times during the first Trump administration, and Trump shot it down. Like badgered the guy, said, "I will hammer fuck you on daily if you start raising rates during my presidency." Right? He is a debt driven investor. Like his whole career
Yeah.
has been based on debt, and he loves cheap debt. Right? So it was
Yeah.
incredibly inflationary under Trump, and then the COVID thing happens. And so, the Fed panics and every central bank panics and they printed like crazy. But those inflationary pressures were already there. And the delays by the Fed, I think, occurred under the Trump administration. It's easy to paint pictures because of where the political lines get drawn in terms of the election maps and the election timeframes. But, it's I think there is a high degree of certainty that Trump is going to be another inflationary president. Like each one of these groups, reds and blues, they can't help but inflate. So we'll see if the Doge thing kind of comes to pass and if they actually rein in spending. But their last spending bill doesn't seem like it, and their
Right.
defense authorizations sure don't seem like it. So I mean,
Yeah.
you never can tell. I
They.
think the safest bet by a mile is just go, well, just buy Bitcoin and see what happens. Like it's the easiest investing strategy in the world. Like I don't
Yeah.
care about MicroStrategy, I don't care about Microsoft, I don't care about Google, I don't care about AI, I don't care about any of this shit. Whatever happens with that stuff is up to God and the markets and the fickle whims of a bunch of politicians all around the world and central bankers doing God knows what they're going to be trying to do.
Yeah.
The one
I,
constant in there is Bitcoin, man.
I have so much less stress just knowing I can I can buy and hold, and I don't have to hustle trying to hope I catch the right tide going left or right upwards.
Yeah,
Buy and hold. Bitcoin will work. Um, Even as Doge cuts, and you'd say, "Oh, we're gonna we're gonna fix what's all been going on for decades." Doge can cut and cut and cut. We can streamline government. We can do all these things. What I also see is money printing and spending, and it's some of the same old selling our future from our grandkids. So
yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, they've made their bed, right? Like,
Mhm.
you can't recover from, 50 years of fiscal irresponsibility and just go, well, we're gonna change tariffs, and you go, eh. The thing you needed to fix was like in 2008 when you blew up this extraordinarily huge bubble, was to let everything crash then, and it would have sucked. And there's zero chance any administration is going to allow that to happen. They're going to say push the printer because we're never going
Yeah,
to
they're all
office.
going to print.
Well, they
Yeah.
have to, right? Like right
Hmm.
now, whether you think Trump blinked or he's playing 4D chess or he's doing the art of the deal, kind of doesn't matter. The point is things changed real fast as soon as that market took a 10% nosedive. And that's where everyone's fortunes are tied. And people will go, well, it's just about Wall Street. And, this administration's about the middle of America that's been left behind. Well, a big chunk of the middle of America has all their shit tied up in a 401k that's tied up in that stock market. So part of keeping things savory for the middle class is making sure that a retirement fund doesn't vaporize. But that's precisely what needed to happen in 2008. They needed to vaporize a huge swath of the population's savings in stocks that were artificially
Hmm.
inflated and savings in their real estate bubble that were artificially inflated. Had they let that happen, we'd be sitting pretty right now, but they didn't. And then by the time 2020 rolls around, where it's like, regardless if you think it's intentional by the secret cabal of lizard people that released this virus or if it was just some lazy intern at the Wuhan lab that oopsie, I forgot I had some of this on my shoe. Either way, it got out and it caused a big fucking problem. And they printed their way through that, right? So
Hmm.
people are now fussing about tariffs and go, "Oh, Trump's disruptive, this, that, and the other thing." I go, "Where the fuck were you guys complaining about this stuff in 2008 when they just flooded the economy with hundreds of billions of dollars to bail out bankers like that?" No one, I mean, people obviously complained about it, but in terms of disruptions to the global monetary system, I think 2008 and 2020 make the tariff little shenanigans look like nothing. I mean, it's a complete nothing burger in comparison to those two things. But
Hmm.
neither party, will acknowledge that kind of shit. They just, they're bickering over the flavor of the month, whatever's going to get them the most traction, whatever's going to get them the most, you know, talking points on CNN or Fox News or whatever. But meanwhile, like I go, just sit back. Things are gonna probably work out the way they always do. They're gonna fuck around with stuff. They're gonna either figure it out or it's not, and then they're gonna print. That's it. Even if
Yeah,
you do figure it out, they're gonna print. So like, just buy Bitcoin. It's so easy.
just buy Bitcoin. It'll alleviate it'll alleviate both your sense of ethics around these financial systems and money, the ethics of it all. It makes you feel better ethically. Strategery,
Yeah,
yes, better strategery.
right.
So, but you don't have to work so hard, and it short circuits so much anxiety I have when I'm not got my fiat monkey brain going on. When I just know why I'm into Bitcoin and I just stay in it and stack in it, whenever a little FUD comes up, or even FOMO comes up, I'm just like, you know what? I'm good.
Yeah.
I know what I'm doing and why, and I'm investing in the future versus hustling for the present and selling out my future. So, did you want to show some charts or something you had
Yeah,
thinking
I can
about?
run through it real quick. I actually just realized like I never promote these on Twitter, and so I just was just checking your profile. I was like, "Yeah, Stoshi's Militia's live." I'm like, "Yeah, come on, join us. If you want to have a fun conversation." But yeah, I'm happy to share a little chart nonsense if you guys want to have a little bit of fun because I've been sitting on my hands. Like people have been talking about, "Are you going to buy the dip?" This, that, and the other thing, and I've just been saying sitting on my hands. And this goes back to my shitcoining days. Like I spent, as I've mentioned several times, an extraordinary amount of time, probably 2 years of my life, and about 12 to 14 hours a day, just sitting here staring at charts and trying to figure out trading, yada, yada, yada. I don't trade anymore, but I do just try and find opportune times to buy. And right now, what I can tell you is here's some basic market structure 101. Here is a high, right? And here is a low down here. And then here is a higher high or a lower high, a lower low, a lower high, and then guess what? A lower low. So what that tells you is the market structure is pretty obviously going uh, this way, right? It's going down. So that is just bare bones, the simplest possible thing you can talk about with market structure. Higher highs and higher lows, market's going up. Lower highs, lower lows, market's going down. So generally speaking, if you're a trader, you don't want to be trading counter trend, right? So the trick every trader is trying to figure out is how do you get to a place where you're not going, where you can find the trend reversals. And so my little strategy entails these two little lines here and this little line right here. And as you can see, this is an exponential moving average, a short term, like 9 period exponential moving average. This is an 18 period. The purple line is an 18 period simple moving average. And if you zoom out a little bit, you can see the simple moving average moves much slower and much smoother than the exponential moving average, right? So for my little particular strategy, when these cross, like right there, when yellow is above purple, you go, this is one good indicator that the market is going back up. But you also have to look at the market structure. Which way is the market, pointed right now? And right now, market structure is down. So you have to be careful about when you buy, like if you're going to go long here, this is not a great time to be going long. This is a time where you look at the market structure and you go, generally, I'm going to want to be short positioned right now, meaning I'm going to be betting on further declines. Now, since I don't trade anymore, I'm just stacking. My whole thesis behind this is I want to find those market reversals to time my buys. I don't want to be buying here because, or I mean, buying here is okay, but I definitely don't want to be buying here, right? Because if you're buying here, then when you wait a couple weeks, you go, oh man, if I had just waited a little bit, I could have bought more than I did here. So sometimes I think it's better to sit on your hands because you can increase the amount that you buy with your fiat savings. But meanwhile, you can just kind of sit here and wait, because the markets are going to go up and down no matter what, right? So right now, my little metric is when the 9 EMA, the exponential moving average, crosses above the 18 simple moving average, SMA, and this little RSI indicator crosses above the 50 line. If you set this up on TradingView or whatever charting program you use, that 50 usually isn't there. There's the 70 and the 30 down here, which most people treat it like overbought, oversold. Above 70 is overbought, below 30 is oversold. But I don't use it that way. I just use it for a general strength indicator. I go, well, is it above 50? That means there's more buying than selling, and vice versa. So when these both cross up, I go, okay, cool. This may be a good time to buy, and I can take you all the way back to when I got one of my best buys of my life. It was right here when this line crossed up and this crossed up, because as you can see, it's been sort of fluttering around in the basement for a long time. But this right here was where I picked up my 16.8K buy on Bitcoin. And I would point out to everyone listening, at that moment in time, people were screaming on Twitter about how Bitcoin's going to 12K, Bitcoin's going to 10K. Doom and gloom. It's the worst time ever, yada, yada, yada. This was like the FTX collapse and all that kind of shit. And I went, I'm buying right now. And that
Yeah.
worked out obviously fantastically for me because
Yeah.
that's the performance since that buy. So same point here is I go, well, when we're getting into here, I go, well, I'm waiting until this crosses, but I also want to see one more thing. The ideal thing for me to buy is this crosses, the yellow line goes above the purple line, the red line crosses above the 50 mark, and then we set a new high, right? Because the markets always fluctuate. If they get a new high, there's going to be some short seller somewhere that goes, oh, I got to bail now, whatever. So when you see a new high, if it comes back down and retraces and then sets a new low and comes back up again, those lines cross again right around here on the chart, I go, that's a buy. 100%, because now you've set a new high, you've changed the market structure. So not only have you reversed the selling pressure, but you've changed the market structure. Setting a new high, wait for that next new low, that's my next buy. And I will post that on Twitter 100%. And we'll see how well it holds up. But that's the sort of 10-cent tour on ways that you may consider possibly thinking about, not financial advice, increasing the fiat purchasing power of your buys rather than just blindly DCAing. But in the
Right.
absence of that, I would say blindly DCA because you're going to do pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah. If it psychs you out, or if it's too complicated, or it prevents you from either getting off zero or growing your non-zero, just DCA.
Yeah.
Uh, Now, if you're willing to look at the charts and kind of look at the indexes and the lines crossing, when you see a trend shift in that regard, it can be an indicator that for you it's performed better than DCA.
Oh,
Um,
significantly. Yeah.
so it's not that you were trading in the sense of buying and selling. It's more like I literally, as the price was going down, and I can't help but kind of smash by when I have it because I don't have the time. I get so busy. I'm like, you know what? I got paid. I have an investment budget. Time is on my side, and I try to have time in the market, not timing the market.
Yeah.
And so I'll just get it when I can get it because I always feel like I missed out one, or I just whatever. But so I buy when I can.
Right.
Had I not been buying this past few months and simply collected my dry powder, fiat as it is,
Right.
now that it hit, it's like, oh, it's low, I buy. It goes lower. Oh, well, I'll buy. It
Yeah.
goes lower. Dang it. What can I do? I'm out of dry powder. I want to buy.
Yeah.
Had I held on to dry powder, and then you see your trends on those charts, now you have some significant dry powder that when it shifts and you're seeing like whatever, and maybe you lost even some gains, it goes up a bit and whatever, and you still kind of waiting for the indicators, but then they cross, you get in at the lowest you really could have done holding to your principles.
Right.
um, but you reap better gains.
Well,
You
that's
have.
what I would say is like, because when I did the math and I sort of checked my math on this thing, I go, if I had just done regular buys on a weekly time frame, on a monthly time frame, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and just kind of let it, and then compared that to, I just put the same amount of money, but at my indicator buys, I end up with significantly more Bitcoin by doing it that way. Not I shouldn't say significantly, probably 15-20% higher amount of Bitcoin by saving the same, like, if let's say I was going to do, just for an example, like $100 a month, right? And I just DCA'd $100 a month, $100 a month, $100 a month, or I just take that same $100 a month and just wait until it stacks up to say $1,000, and then I find my little purchasing opportunity. I go boom, buy there. I'll take that whole $1,000 instead of the 10 $100 bets along the way. That that $1,000 chunk is is a, typically speaking, a greater amount of Bitcoin that I acquire at that moment than if I had just DCA'd the whole way.
Yep.
So DCA is pretty easy. It's pretty brain dead. You can just kind of sit there, set on an autopilot. Don't worry about it. It's totally fine. The thing is I think it's important for people to stack as much Bitcoin as they possibly can while they have an opportunity to do so, because there's not a lot of runway left before it's going to just become like, oh, I just spent $1,000 to get point, 0.001 sats or something like that, or 0.001 Bitcoin or something like that. So, or even worse. So, like the ability to sort of maximize what little fiat I have to spend on this stuff these days, I want to try and maximize as much as possible, and that's the sort of whole thesis behind why I use these indicators and why I kind of position myself this way. It's not for everybody. I get it. And like I said, I don't sell to, I'm not trying to dip in and out of the market and try and time things. I'm just trying to maximize the fiat value of my buys when they come,
Yeah.
and I sit on my hands otherwise. So,
Yeah, and I learned a lot from you over the years about that because you were really putting the work in. And um, I saw a funny meme where it had a picture of a gorgeous woman, and up on her in her head, where her brain and personality is, it was like, fix the money, fix the world, ethical systems, um, grid decentralization, network ossification. It was all the good things about good, sound money. And
right.
down by her cleavage was Bitcoin price. And so
Yeah.
you, you get into Bitcoin, and here's everything you like about a thing, and you can't help but have your eyes fixed on the price.
Yeah.
And so it's like, nope, nope, nope. I'm not watching the price.
Yeah.
I'm
I
I'm
actually
in on
replied to
Bitcoin.
that tweet. I was like, "Did someone mention Bitcoin price?" Like, yeah, it was a pretty funny tweet, though. It was pretty
Yeah.
funny, little meme.
Um, I heard a thing about China and that, well, so the whole tariffs, like, okay, what is it? 10% kind of across the board with various negotiations all swamping in. Yet China is what, 125%. And then I heard, and so I was hearing a lot of interesting things about, man, China's going to have to bend or another. What's going to give? Is this going to just, you know, one up each other to death, or shut down trade, whatever? I heard that, like, the U.S., China's exports in total to the U.S., it's like 12% or 13% of their exports.
Hmm.
And maybe China don't care as much as we think they should. I don't know. Then
I
again,
uh,
Scott Bessent had an interesting analogy to China's economy, where it's like that old Disney movie Fantasia, where Mickey Mouse he got the sorcerer's wand, and he got, instead of doing his chores, he got all the brooms to replicate, and all the brooms are spilling water all over the place and flooding the castle, and they can't stop, won't stop. And
yeah,
Scott Bessent described China's economy as basically being all these marching brooms in Fantasia, where they have to uh, pull and pour water all day, but that's all they got
yeah,
is going.
yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's true of like almost any industrial nation, right? Like you can't, industrial slowdowns are problematic, and if you're China and you're trying to increase your middle class and trying to increase domestic consumption and all that kind of stuff, those people have to be working for them to consume things, right? And if they're not working, then the consumption economy, like that's the sort of myth of the American economy, is like all our people are working. And you go, well, they're not really making anything. They're just managing things that are being made somewhere else for the most part. Not everyone, obviously, there's obviously manufacturing and things get built here. So it's not entirely, I mean, it's an oversimplification, but but I think it's an astute observation about China and there's the sort of pickle they could potentially be in. And they also have like unlimited, unfettered access to control everything, right? Like they can subsidize industries, they can, tax industries out of existence, they can just shut stuff down, they can start stuff up, they can just create work. And it's not ideal for them internally, but they can maintain internal illusions a lot longer than the US can, I think. Despite the
Yeah.
fact we've maintained an illusion of prosperity for 40 years here in the United States, all driven by credit and debt, right? But it's the way the tools they have, I think, are very different than the tools we have here. My ultimate thesis on all of this stuff is that they're going to come to some sort of accord sooner or later, right? And maybe I'm just being a Pollyanna, and yet the intertwined global financial system doesn't doesn't keep working very well if you just start throwing wrenches and everything, right? So it's fine if you want to kind of toss a wrench out there and see what happens, but you know when the financial realities kind of hit home on both sides, I think there's a massive incentive for them to just compromise on something, figure something out, whatever leverage Trump's trying to get, and whether the the outward messaging says we're trying to reindustrialize America. I go, well, that's great. It's going to take about 5 years, and it's not going to be overnight. And even if you do reindustrialize America, it's all going to be robots and automation driving it anyway. So whether they're kicking a can, or if you listen to Simon Dixon and his conspiratorial stuff about, oh, we're it's this cabal of people is going to divide up the globe, and the U.S. gets this hemisphere, and Russia gets this hemisphere, and China gets this hemisphere, and that's how they're gonna. That's the plan all along, kind of thing. I don't put too much stock in it, but the broad point being is whether it's intentional or clumsy and fumbling, just like I think most of world history is clumsy and fumbling the whole way through. I think people the normal orientation for people is to try and figure something out, right? Like to try and make things work somehow. And
Hmm.
what that looks like, I don't know. I don't think anybody can say right now. I think what's happening right now is there's a lot of people getting a lot of traction off prognosticating about shit they don't have any fucking idea what's going to happen. So,
Yeah.
to not to be a broken record, but you want to make your life super simple, you just sit on some Bitcoin and just watch what happens. I mean, it's like literally the popcorn meme, Michael Jackson sitting there chowing on
Yeah.
popcorn. You just got to go, yeah, you guys set fire to whatever you want. These are all fiat games as far as I'm concerned, and you can play your fiat games till you're purple. At the end
Yeah.
of the day, all you're doing is strengthening my case and my resolve. So thank you.
Yeah. It's a reminder to me why I'm in Bitcoin. And while I enjoy all the infotainment about it, and I'm just curious to imagine, man, where is all this going? The great realignment slowly, steadily continues, I think. There's kind of a cool chill between the US and Europe as well. Ukraine is not resolved, and if it can be. And um, trade all around between countries. I don't know. I see creepy shit going on in Europe. I see America striving to do good things, but a lot of things good for Bitcoin. U.S. Justice Department disbanded their Bitcoin and crypto enforcement unit. So at least as a narrative shift, whether that was just a memo or some kind of policy change, it's
Yeah.
not like it's a law, but at least it's a bit of a paradigm shift in terms of priorities. Like, are we still trying to crack down on this, or are we just going now? Are we rolling? So
I think they just gave up, dude. I mean, the
yeah,
thing is, they had no meaningful enforcement over crypto anyway. So, like, it was all sort of farcical, in the same way they don't have any meaningful control over drugs, right? Like, they spend all this enormous amounts of money combating the drug trade and money laundering and yada yada yada, but there's zero, like, just you can go anywhere. You can go to any prison in Oregon right now and say, "Hey, I need to get some drugs in here," and someone will go, "Oh yeah, Tom down 3 cells down has plenty." Just you might have to tickle his nuts or whatever, but he'll give you some. Um, so the whole notion that they were going to crack down on it or this or that, the other thing, I go, it's all just nonsense, right? I mean, it's all smoke and mirrors to make it look like they're doing something, but
Yeah. We've stopped posturing there. Our war on whatever. It's like, I mean, we can still do what we do through our banks and through the CIA or what we'll do. We do what we want to do
yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
but we won't go after the little guy now. So it's like, okay, well,
Well, that
um,
was the thing I pointed out a long time ago. Is most of these things are offshore. If you're going to spin up a crypto scam company, chances are good you don't want to do it in Indiana, right? Like you want to go down to the Bahamas or you want to go down to somewhere else where the regulations are more lax and the long arm of the United States Justice Department can't reach you. There's a reason the Cardano founder did his little initial coin offering offshore. Like he didn't offer that here in the United States because it was a very clear violation of securities laws. But you know, the broad point being is if you can just spin up a crypto scam coin, like you've been watching Kruger do that now, he's just spinning up fucking meme coins and doing stupid shit. I don't know where he.
he is such a shit guy now, shitcoin
I don't.
guy.
I mean, the thing is, I'll still listen to him. Like people go, oh, I unfollowed him. I go, why would you do that? Like I follow a bunch of people that I don't agree with, and the guy is not without his brain power, right? So you never know. I mean, you always want to keep your eyes and ears open to information, whether you like hearing it or not.
Hmm. Yeah.
The point being is like if someone like him can spin up a coin online in front of viewers in 10 minutes, you go, what's it take for a couple of kids doing bong rips down in the Bahamas or some kid in Nigeria doing it, or these other kids that are using all these VPNs and proxies and proxy servers to spin up a coin here in the United States? Like you can just spit one out in 10 minutes. So there's hundreds of thousands of these coins just floating around out there. Good luck policing that, right? Like it's like trying to stop the drug trade. You just go, how many people are selling drugs in the city? Oh God, hundreds of thousands. Oh, how can we arrest them all? We've got like 25,000 police total, and they have to do everything. Like they have to go do traffic and they have to do the administrative work. And at any given time on any given shift, we've got 200 people out patrolling the streets to combat 150,000 drug dealers. You go, how many are you going to catch? About as many as they do, which is like zero. So it's all nonsense. But
Yeah. I wish smart people like Kruger, instead of like, even if enlightening as it might be to me to follow and at least have that perspective and awareness of the landscape. I wish they would adopt core principles based on ethics and just endorse Bitcoin wholly and fully. Because what I worry about is that people that are variously new to it or on the path get sorely distracted or wrecked. Potential Bitcoiners that may not be or be much later because they got frickin' wrecked or distracted. And so the more smart guys we got playing those kinds of games and kind of trying to reconcile it in a crypto landscape, it's distracting to people that don't get it yet.
right,
And then that's what I hate about it is seeing that. It's like, hey, you're smart. Like, why are you still playing that game? Come
yeah.
on. Or I thought you were there and you fell back. I don't get it, but
It
anyway.
happens a lot. I mean, the thing is like the influencer space is it's really hard to tell what somebody's ethics are just because they became popular, right?
Yeah,
And I think it's problematic throughout the information economy right now anyway, because like for the people that are still hanging on to the idea of like legacy media and trusted news sources and things like that, you go, well, there is some merit to that idea, right? You go, well, this is not just some rando that you just found and go, oh, I trust this guy now, and then you find out that they're a shit stain, right? That's one of the big problems with celebrity. And like, it's always funny to me when people watch celebrities that fall, they go, oh my God, I can't believe it. It's like, well, you fell in love with the personality. You didn't necessarily know the person.
they're people.
Yeah, they're people, right? And that's true of politicians. That's true of all and there's a reason why politicians craft such careful images because if you revealed their true thoughts and thinking, you might go, ooh, I don't know if I like this person very much, right? And so the direct connection influence economy like this enables people to bypass a lot of those sort of structural barriers and just go, hey, look, I'm a good guy. And if you have that sort of charisma and that ability to convey that kind of stuff, you can amass a pretty decent following. But there's I think a reason why a lot of those people end up turning out to be shady people, or like the Jared from Subway guy turning out to be a monster, or any number of these personalities that have been developed outside of formal chains of development turn out to be kind of scumbags, right? So uh,
Yeah.
I think it's unsurprising. I also think, especially with AI coming online, like it's going to get harder and harder for people to be disingenuous, just because, like, even 2 years ago, if someone said something crazy online, you go, oh, I don't know, maybe you get tuned up by it, or maybe you get tuned off by it, or whatever. But now you can just ask Grok and go, hey, is this real or not? And they go, well, here's a nuanced perspective on exactly that statement. You go, oh, okay, I've learned something new now, right? So I think a lot of this is going to get moderated, um, with coming technology. But we're just about to enter an age of just such profound change. Like I don't think people are really buckled up for it. So whether or not Kruger's out there scamming people for shit coins or pumping Solana memes or whatever he's doing, I don't know. The core principle remains the same. Like, you can get caught up in that kind of stuff. It's a steep learning curve to get it to a place where you go, Bitcoin is the only thing worth talking about right now. And so if you're fortunate enough to get there, great. But if not, Bitcoin's coming to you regardless of you want it or not, whether you understand it or not. It's going to fundamentally alter your life in ways that you cannot foresee. So you best get some now, right? Even if you don't understand it, just put a little in a wallet and just sit on it, because it. I don't think people can really reconcile like what AI is going to do to the world, what the global economy is going to look like under an AI robotics driven economy, and I don't think they're going to fully understand what it looks like to have untethered central bank printing via an app on your phone, right? Like, there's some enormous forces are about to collide, and I think we're going to birth a new universe out of it. But
Yeah.
in the meantime, get some Bitcoin in your wallet, because that's one of the few things you can look at and go, okay, in this world of chaos, what is a very stable, sound principle that I can hang my hat on? That's Bitcoin, 100%.
It's the sound of inevitability, Mr. Anderson.
Yes,
Um,
nothing stops this train. Exactly right,
Nothing
Johnny.
stops it. Nothing stops this train. Bitcoin continues to win in various ways. 6 months ago, I want to say I was reading about I think it was an arms deal between Russia and China, and they were literally shipping gold with security on cargo planes to make themselves, final settlement with gold.
Right.
And more recently, Russia and China have been actually making transactions back and forth using Bitcoin. And
Ooh,
once it's one of those things that kind of like when you're learning Bitcoin yourself, and then you're a little unfamiliar, but then, oh, I could put it on a hardware device. Oh, okay, I'm comfortable with that now. Oh, I can make purchases and buys with it. Okay, I have a mechanism for that now. I'm comfortable with that. And
right.
as those roots trickle in to your brain, and as these nation states start to see, my God, this works pretty well.
Yeah.
Let's just do this.
Right. Yeah. 100%.
Like,
I mean, if
hey,
yeah, that's the cornerstone of the my whole book is like, yeah, that
yep,
exactly, 100%.
it's the great realignment. It's like, you know, do you actually have this gold? Yep, we have it. Okay, is it audited or assayed? Oh yeah, long time ago. No, but believe us, it's there. Okay, so you're willing to ship it, and how much overhead is there to haul a ton of gold by rail, by sail, by plane?
Yeah.
My God, just you got Bitcoin. Um, that
So
that
what's the
that's
paper
the fix.
claim right now? Like, what are paper claims in relation to actual gold allegedly out in the world right now? Like, I mean, I think it's like
Oh
10 to 1 or something. It's insane, right?
yeah,
It's Grok, I suppose. But the thing is like, what you were just talking about is spot on, right? Like, and if China and Russia are starting to do this, the thing is the natural incentive. If you go, well, we are a non-productive country. You're the leader of some non-productive country. You go, well, how do I want to do my money? Well, you want to create it out of thin air as much as possible, right? But if you have some productive capacity, you have access to natural resources, which every country does on some level. You go, do I want to be OFAC compliant to trade this? Do I want to be subject to, OFAC censorship? Do I want to be subject to just having my bank account seized? Or do I want to just settle in this thing that no one has any say over it? Either we settle or we don't, period. And
Mhm.
everybody knows it. I
Yeah.
think the smarter people among the world leaders are going to look at it and go, "Hmm." And it's going to trickle in. It's like I said, it's an antidote to a fiat cancer. The fiat cancer spread says we need to use U.S. rails, we need to use European rails, we need to use Chinese rails, and we need to allow those people to filter, censor, tinker with our stuff, and we need to pay middlemen on each step of the way and hope someone doesn't scam us out of some money along the way or extort us to get our money or any number of things. And that happens from the lowest, migrant farm worker here in the United States who tries to Western Union something. The receiving company goes, oh, well, we can take a slice of this because what are you going to do? You don't get
Yeah.
your money otherwise, right? But the
Or
U.S. can do that with OFAC and OFAC compliance, and they can just freeze you out of your accounts. The biggest mistake the Biden administration made, amongst the many that I would point to, was freezing Russian assets. You go, that was a catastrophically stupid thing to do. Just from a pure
Yeah.
financial standpoint, you go, you cannot filter people, you cannot censor people on your rails. If you want people to use your rails, you can't stop them from using them like that. You can't steal
Yeah.
their shit, or people will stop using them. But now there's an alternative remittance system that is not subject to sovereign control. So why wouldn't you settle?
Yep. Yeah, was it the Bank of International Settlements or something? It's like when Russia experiences a freeze on assets that was, legitimately theirs, but arguable, and if you liked what they did with it, they're like, "Oh, I see how it is. Okay,
Yeah,
we're going to figure something else out."
yeah,
So, okay, try that in gold. Could work, but you know, money can be used by everyone. Bitcoin is for everyone. That does include your, say, enemies. And if the enemies are making it work, and other countries are like, "Hey, what? It's a tool for everybody." I see. What was it? CZ with Binance, or was with Binance.
yeah,
He's what, advising Pakistan on is it crypto, or they say crypto, but really they're Bitcoin.
yeah,
So to the extent, well, it's just Pakistan. I look at Pakistan as sort of like, you know what, it's just GameStop. But if Pakistan wants to be relevant and sees what the US or Russia or China are doing, and they're like, yeah, we're just Pakistan, or we're just Burma, we're just El Salvador, we're just GameStop, or we're just strategy. What do we make? Who knows? But we're in on Bitcoin, and that may be the fix they need.
yeah.
Not that they're not going to have an economy, but they've got the sound money.
Right. Well, it trickles through everything, right? Like it just a lot of things stop making sense when you have a sound non-sovereign asset to save in, right? And a non-sovereign asset to transact in. Like you just kind of go, oh, these old ideas, I know that's what we're doing, that's what we've been doing, and they just don't make as much sense. And I
Yeah,
think that happens on a personal level, like it did for me. I will go, oh, I need to hustle to get fiat, and I need to hustle to get this, or I can just save in Bitcoin. You go, oh, and then all of a sudden you go, oh, this is that those other ideas weren't as good as this one, and it becomes self evident rather quickly. Yeah,
yeah.
I think that self evidence is going to just manifest slowly. It's happening right now. People are talking about this globally. Heads of
Hmm.
state are talking about this openly. Heads of financial institutions are talking about Bitcoin. It's nothing but people talking about Bitcoin as a store value, yada yada yada, everywhere you look. And that was unheard of 2 years ago. Today, very commonplace. What do you think it's going to be in 2 more years? Like
Yeah.
Bitcoin idea
Ironic.
doesn't get worse the more you think about it. The Bitcoin idea gets much stronger the more you think about it, and that's 100% where this train goes. It does not stop to go. Well, these fiat goons think something different. Like it. Either you get on board with the idea or you're gonna fall behind 100%.
Yeah, and the train is gaining speed, gaining momentum. The inertia is incredible, and the magic of it is that you can hop right on at any speed. At just your toe in the door, you're on the train,
Yeah,
and nothing stops it. Ironically, the Bitcoin conference in Vegas, being in Vegas, I just imagine the casinoville of all that and the fiat brain, monkey brains, casino thinking going on.
yeah,
And I'm no gambler, but it's like nation states and companies and everybody they're just used to the casino and sitting at the table, and this is the only game there is. And then you notice across the hall there's a different game being played with rules and fixed numbers and consensus. And you're like, all I have to do is stop playing this game so much and
yeah.
just walk across the
What is
hall and sit at that table.
that
And
one?
the only winning move is to play.
Yeah,
So uh, play a different game.
yeah, exactly. Like, don't sit down at the casino table. I mean, that's there's a political economist named Susan Strange that likened global capitalism to a global casino.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not quite a perfect analogy, but there is certain merit to what she was saying back then. And if you look at it right now, like any other casino, if you sit at the table, you can win. A handful of people, like a very, very tiny minority, will win big at a casino table. Most people will not. Most people lose slowly, and a handful of people get absolutely wrecked, right?
Mhm.
And that very much sums up the fiat system. There's a handful, a tiny, tiny handful, a few hundred, maybe a few thousand people globally that do really, really well at the fiat tables. Most people lose slowly at the fiat tables. And then there's the bottom that gets absolutely wrecked. They go home
Yep.
broke and they don't know how to pay the rent next month. So Bitcoin is not a casino, right? Bitcoin is the antidote to that. It is the
Yep.
equivalent of, should I save this money that I won in the slot machine, or should I go pour it back into the slot machine? You go save it. Bitcoin is the savings part of that equation.
Yeah, and the table, it's a big long table. The game they're playing is called Razzle Dazzle,
Yeah.
and the Federal Reserve is the dealer. The big banks who are, in bed with the Federal Reserve to some varying
Well, the
extent.
Federal Reserve is the pit boss.
The pit boss, okay.
Dealers. Yeah.
And so those that are the ones sitting next to the pit boss and the dealer get the cards first, and then they trickle down, and you want to sidle up to the table, and you're getting your seat at
Yeah.
the end of the table, and you're watching the pit boss and the dealer down at the other end, and you're waiting for your turn as it trickles down. And by the time it gets to you, you're like, "Ooh, now I can play, and maybe I can win because I'm so smart."
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah. Good luck indeed. Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you, Johnny. Opt out, man. It's
Opt
the
out.
the most
Vegas is
fascinating thing about the present world we live in right now is, never in the history of mankind, I can't stress this enough to anybody that's listening, never in the history of mankind were you allowed to opt out of sovereign control. Ever.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
never, ever, ever, ever happened. People that
it's
don't
incredible.
wrap their head around that are missing out on a huge, 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 huge shift in the way political and interpersonal and geopolitical relationships form and are managed, because everybody on planet Earth has access to something that a sovereign cannot control, capture, or steal. So that changes everything in a
Yeah,
way that I don't think anyone has quite wrapped their head around yet. Even the most bullish Bitcoiners, I don't think, have fully appreciated and embraced what that truly means for humanity. So
yeah. It's like
it's
the invention of the wheel was pretty big. The invention of agriculture, pretty big. The invention of gunpowder and arms, pretty big.
yeah,
The invention of the internet, pretty big. The invention of Bitcoin,
unprecedented.
pretty damn. I mean, unprecedentedly bigger. It's just
Yeah,
it's to call it the next big thing might be diminishing the outcomes it really can have
yeah, one
because
hundred percent.
it's so big. It's so big, and
Well, yeah,
it's, it's surreal to me. Like I don't I haven't can't remember the last time I was in Vegas, and I didn't go in casinos really, but it's a surreal environment to me. And so day to day, when I think of money when I think in terms of money, or I think in terms of budgets, and I'm at work or I'm in public, again, it's also similarly surreal, like being in a casino and you watch to a T kind of people's generally priorities, um, drive through lines waiting for their Dutch brothers or something. And I find a lot to be a little bit surreal, like a fishbowl giant aquarium casino.
Yeah,
And in my head, I got Bitcoin on the brain. And so then my frame on the world is like, this is surreal.
yeah,
But
it's all sort of fictional. Well, like you were talking about, like every one of those inventions you listed have been co-opted by other people, and usually people with bigger muscles and more teeth and more, ability to marshal force.
they can
They
steal your wheel or gun from you.
they can steal your wheel. They can point guns at you. They can get people to point guns at you. They can steal your fire. They can steal your internet. They already have. It's owned, you know. But the one thing they can't take is your Bitcoin. So
Yeah.
that's, you know, to say it's a bigger invention than the wheel or fire. I go, yeah, 100%, because since agriculture, people have been competing for the fruits of labor. So how that competition looks now is completely different, because now the farmer can save them Bitcoin. You can't take their shit anymore. So it's,
A
yeah,
farmer can have his private key around his neck while he drives his tractor, honing his craft and stacking in Bitcoin.
yeah,
Uh, Bringing us to like, why are we going to Vegas?
yeah. I don't have one with me.
Let me just get my little magic box here.
Yeah,
We're going to be in Vegas selling our best favorite tool, um, our MicroSeed.
yeah.
Where's my camera?
Oh, you got it.
Anyway, so imagine a farmer stamps his washer out. Um, you- it, Everybody has their own approach to security, obscurity, private key, key control, key security. This tool I just find to be something where instead of having I made a joke on a tweet yesterday, I think, about, and I'm not against anyone storing their keys however they want to do it. I do a variety of things. I've scratched things, I've stamped things, I've cold wallet transacted. Um, there's a peace of mind on having it portable on your person that you know you're not going to lose, that no one knows about, that you
Yeah,
can move with, that you know you always have, and it connects to you as a person because you live in a body.
yeah,
And if you got to move or travel or whatever, it's not like, oh, the technology is hard, or oh, is that susceptible to flood, fire, water? That's why people stamp in steel. Um, do you now? You might have a small seed plate that's going to fit in your fanny pack or your man purse or your women's handbag as you try to get through TSA.
yeah,
Um, how about a washer,
yeah.
a little washer that you can stamp onto?
Well, the kind of neat thing about this is, like, every microseed kit you get comes with a titanium washer, which can withstand the same thing as any other titanium plate can. And it also comes with a stainless steel set of stainless steel washers. So if you wanted to do smart things like break up your seed phrase into 3 or 4 different pieces and then have them strategically scattered around the globe. But it also comes with a nylon washer, and nylon is particularly cool because it's not reactive to things like X-ray machines. Just saying.
Yeah,
So if you, heaven forbid, ever found yourself like, where you needed to leave the country under duress or stress, and you wanted to take your Bitcoin with you, nylon doesn't trigger things like steel does, and your seed phrase will still be protected by that nylon. It'll still be there, ready to recreate at your destination,
yeah,
and you have access to whatever you need to have access to. So you can have one for titanium that you keep around your neck at all times. You can have one as a backup just in case you needed to get across a border checkpoint. Not that that's going to happen to anybody, and it has happened to somebody. So
yeah,
just, things to think about. Maybe I'm over paranoid. Maybe I'm too protective. Maybe I'm too, like, a little paranoid about protecting my sole non-sovereign permissionless asset. But I think it's worth thinking about. So yeah.
Yeah, and even if it's not like, oh, my country's being overthrown and I got to cross a national border, it's like, I got to fly to Hawaii, and I just want that peace of mind.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
traveling. I just want to,
yeah. Well, like think about, if every time you fly internationally, they ask you to declare your assets, right? You got more than $10,000 cash or other instruments. Instruments include your crypto and yada yada yada. So, are you traveling with that stuff? If you've got a crypto wallet on your phone that's got, $150,000 worth of Ethereum, you are technically violating export controls on your currency and import controls in most countries. So, that's not bueno. And if some goon decides they want to crack into your computer and start figuring out if you actually have any of this stuff on you, or they want to crack into your phone, there's tools now that can do that. So, you know, if you wanted to travel internationally and just be sure that no matter what, let's say a nuclear bomb dropped on your hometown, you go, oh crap. Well, thank God I've got my seed phrase here, and I didn't have to worry about violating export or import controls because I carried this thing on something that's on my person, not, and it's not locked away in my safe that just got nuked, or it's not locked.
honey,
Yeah,
get into my safe. I know the house is burning, but since I'm in New York on a business trip, can you know where the key is? You
yeah.
don't. Uh, okay, go over there. Da, 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 got the key. Okay, get into the safe. Okay, it's in the back corner. Get that thing. It's that real important thing. Oh, you burned it. The house.
Oh,
Oh
you're
no.
on fire, honey. Sorry. Yeah. Well, I mean, you think about some of those wildfires. I don't know if anybody remembers there were some pretty terrible wildfires that blazed through Australia a few years back.
Hmm.
Those people got overwhelmed in minutes. Like it wasn't like, hey, there's fire danger. We're on level 1, level 2, level 3. It was like, get out now. Oh my God, run, 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 run. And a lot of people didn't make it out because those fires happened so fast. Same thing just happened in Los Angeles. There was like 1 minute they go, it looks like the fire's. Oh my God, it's right there.
The
Get out.
Santa Ana winds.
Yeah, and those winds just whipped that right through. It's decades of mismanagement of the burn areas, but whatever. But the broad point being is if you've got seconds to spare and you're scrambling to get your kids and your pictures and whatever, and you go, oh shit, I forgot about my seed phrase. Whatever, it's in titanium, it's fine, it'll be fine. Some of those people to this day have not been allowed back in their house. You go,
Yep.
eh. And what happens if they come and bulldoze it? What if they go, oh, this is not safe? We had to knock it down. But I had $150,000 worth of Bitcoin in there. You go, well, too bad. That got scooped up and sent to the dump. You go, oh, gee, well, I thought I was safe. Now I'm not. And some of those people, they didn't have a chance. They were at work and they said, honey, they got a phone call at work. We're leaving the house right now, taking the kids.
Yeah. Gotta go. Just
Yeah,
gotta
gotta
go.
go right now. And you go, but wait, you got to go get the plate thingy that's bolted to the bottom of my chair. What are you talking about? Uh, Honey, I can't talk to you about this right now. I got to go. Boom. And you go, oh,
Yeah.
but,
Like,
honey.
yeah. And like, okay, so I got stuff in steel, but it's like I'm at work. The house is on fire or something. I'd be like, how fireproof is my safe? How fireproof, or can I get into a steel plate or that hardware wallet that I had some on but hadn't moved? And is it safe? Um, a little picture of a washer here, if you can see it. So there's a quarter.
Yeah. And there is your seed phrase. And I would also point out, like, just think about what happened to the people in North Carolina. Some of those people still can't get back into their house either to this day. And that was months and
Yeah,
months ago. And
the
some of their
road's
houses just
gone.
got flattened. You go,
The
okay, well,
road's out.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the people in Hawaii, a lot of those people can't get back into their property either. And there's all the, you can talk about all the shenanigans that are going on with losing your property that way. But if your Bitcoin is stuck in there, you got a big problem. On top of the fact that you just lost everything and your life's upside down, the one thing that you may have been using to save yourself from just such an eventuality is now gone with it. That is catastrophic. That's not a loss I don't think anyone should want to or even risk tolerating. You can put this thing on a microseed. Like, I made these things for people to protect themselves against things that are unlikely. And it's not something that requires a subscription. It's not something that requires some technical expertise. I'm going to be coming out with a video pretty quick here that shows you how you can do all this without even buying a hardware wallet. You can safely store your information offline in cold storage without relying on software vendors, without relying on supply chains, without relying on any of it. All you need to do is be able to verify software, and you'll still have the same level of protection as you would with a cold card or Blockstream Jade, which I love all of those things. I love those solutions. Cold card, I'm a cold card owner. I'm not saying you shouldn't buy one. I'm saying you should also have other ways to protect your stack. My 2 cents.
Yeah. Yeah. People are going to go through levels of their own security, operational security awareness, and it might start with a custodied exchange, and you're online, and then you might move it to the right kind of exchange that gives you more Bitcoin protections. You're going to move to hardware wallet, perhaps, and then the next step is really having your keys nowhere but on steel, perhaps.
Yeah.
So with a little
Well, the
die,
thing is, regardless of how you're protecting your stack, as long as you have that seed phrase, you're 99% safe, right?
yeah,
So protecting that seed is by far the most important thing you can do, and you should have multiple layers of protection. Just like you wouldn't rely on one lock on your door, right? You don't want to rely on just one thing protecting your most valuable asset. Banks certainly don't do that with their money. You certainly shouldn't do it with yours. It's my 2 cents.
yeah,
Anyway, God, this has been a long, great conversation, Fritz.
yep, it's been good. Vegas approaches, MicroSeed
44 days.
hitting the
You should, if
stage.
you're going to Vegas, you should come on down. Robin Sayer, if you're not familiar with him, you should give him a follow on Twitter. He's got a code, gets you 10% off on the Vegas tickets, I believe. So you should absolutely use that. You can support his channel, you support the work he's doing. He's an awesome guy. And if you use that 10% discount, you should come give us a visit. We're going to be in the Bazaar area. There's like the expo hall with all the vendors and stuff, and then there's a little smaller area for smaller vendors like us or me. And yeah, come by, check us out. You can see what one of these things looks like and feels like in person. And yeah, it's going to be a good
You
time.
might hear hammering at a table. I'll be sitting there hammering,
Yeah, just banging away.
causing, causing a noise
Yeah.
at our booth.
Thank you, John.
Thanks,
It's
Johnny.
always great to see you, sir. I hope you feel better.
Yeah, we'll do it again next time.
Yeah.
All
Peace,
right.
everybody.
Thanks, folks. Bye.
See you.